This week on the WriterCon podcast.
Well, this sounds really weird, but I actually give it to young writers all the time, and that's that you have to really love writing.
Welcome to WriterCon, a gathering place for writers to share their knowledge about writing and the writing world. Your hosts are William Bernhardt, best-selling novelist and author of the Red Sneaker books on writing, and Lara Bernhardt, award-winning author of the Wantland Files book series.
Thank you, Jesse Ulrich. Hey there, writers. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to August. August is a magical month. Or at any rate, this year it is because it's the month of WriterCon. So we're now in the official run-up. We've got, as we record this, not quite a month. Still plenty of time to register and participate. And what can I tell you about WriterCon? We've got... It's a Labor Day weekend, August 30 to September 2, Oklahoma City. More than 70 presenters, more than 90 sessions on various topics. You've got, here's a list I just made. Unlimited pitching, no additional cost. Lunches with big-time literary agents. Monday MasterClasses, where you can take a deep dive in important subjects. Contests still open. 9 different categories for unpublished work. Manuscript reviews, one-on-one consultations with the person of your choice, free top-flight author photos by one award-winning photographer, that's Ralph Bernhardt, lunch buffet provided by Black Chateau and Plotter, advanced planning through our nifty cool Whova conference phone app. You like that, don't you, Lara? Mm-hmm. And author book sales table, and open mic, and swag bags, and where you can see Jesse in person at his best, karaoke night.
Yeah. That was fun.
So how could you possibly resist this opportunity? Advance your writing career, make friends for life, and have a lot of fun. Also live taping of the WriterCon podcast for people to watch and enjoy. That's right. You'll see how the magic happens, or whatever happens at any rate. You'll see it happen right before your eyes. You might even be able to be a on-air participant in that. So I'm glad you brought that up, Jesse. I love WriterCon. To me, it is much more than just a conference. It's like a family of people who are eager to support fellow writers and do. And, we all need all the backup we can get, especially in this writing game. So, encourage you, register now. It's writercon.com. Lara, you're coming, right?
Absolutely. Nope, I would not miss it. I'm looking forward to it. I can't believe it's almost here, but I'm emotionally ready for it.
You're not going to stay home just because think you'll have the house to yourself for the weekend? Or
no, I want to enjoy the Renaissance Waterford Hotel. It's beautiful.
It is very nice.
We enjoy being there.
And they cut us a great deal. Okay, so what are you looking forward to most this year at WriterCon?
To be totally honest, I think I probably look forward the most to seeing friends that I have made over the years. I love it when we get to all come together. Sometimes we only see these familiar faces once a year. However, I've noticed already in the Whova app that we are being joined this year by some new faces as well. So I'm equally excited to meet them, welcome them to the family. If you are worried that you won't know what's going on, or that you'll stick out, or that you won't fit in, do not worry about that. Usually Thursday evening, I schedule what I call an orientation, but really it's just an opportunity for me to come say hi to anybody that wants to, show you around, talk to you, and just so you can get the first time nerves out. And then when you show up Friday morning, you're just ready to go, ready to launch yourself right into the conference and start learning. I'm also really excited about my presentation that I'm giving this year. It'll be a new session for me, and I'm excited for that.
Well, I haven't heard this yet, so cool. Jesse, what are you looking forward to? Don't say the hot tub. What are you looking forward to most?
All right, well, not counting the hot tub. I mean, honestly, like, again, as a non-author but lover of interacting with creative people, I always just love people who are trying to like fulfill a dream, work on like a creative passion, and talking with each other about all the different ways we have to convince ourselves to work on the thing we want to work on. And it's just, I somehow always take skills that are for writers and somehow able to use them in my life as a podcast and audiobook producer. So
Very nice. I love that.
Yeah.
And of course the hot tub. So
Right. Of course, it'll probably be 110 degrees outside. I'm just saying. But,
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Okay.
Listen, hotel, I'm talking to you right now. It better be working.
Where is the
that's in our
hot tub
contract.
there?
I'm not telling anybody. So
Wise.
it's in the gym. It's in like the little fitness center part on the first floor. So
Okay.
I'll bleep that out on the edited version of this episode. But
You do have that power. Yeah. All right. Our interview today is with superstar #1 New York Times bestselling author, Aprilynne Pike. I had the pleasure of working with Aprilynne lots of years ago at a retreat in Hawaii, as a matter of fact. I can't take credit for anything, though. I knew that the first day that she was destined for success and greatness. Although even I was stunned when her very first published book, Wings, hit the #1 NYT spot and then got optioned by Disney and led to a long series of YA hits. She's one of the keynote speakers at WriterCon this year. We will talk to her about her career and her fascinating body of work. But first, the news. All right, news item #1, fraud at the Hugo Awards. Again. I mean, is it just me? It seems like this is about the 4th time there's been fraud at the Hugo Awards or something like that. But it's happened again. I don't know. What is it about the Popular Vote Science Fiction Award? I don't get it. There must be a way to make this work. Anyway, hundreds of votes, like 377 votes, were cast fraudulently for one finalist in the majority in the prestigious Hugo Awards. That's for the best of science fiction and fantasy. Nearly 10% of votes cast were deemed fraudulent. That's, like I said, 377 out of 3,813. Many votes were made under what the administrators called obvious fake names. Someone explained that there was, quote, a run of voters whose second names were identical, except that the first letter was changed in alphabetical order. And they also described a, quote, run of voters whose names were translations of consecutive numbers. I don't know how suspicion would arise when votes are coming in like this, but it's really, cast doubts and no, I'm not going to say disgrace because I know they're trying. But anyway, Jesse, what's going on here? Why is this award so plagued with problems?
Well, you could think that maybe like science fiction authors, science fiction fans would be the type of people who would try to find a way to sort of game the system, right?
Yeah.
But like the fact they did it so poorly is what's so disappointing. Like,
it would be simpler to write out, it's only 377, do it by hand.
Yeah, there are random name generators on the internet that do a very good job of coming up with fake names.
That. I don't know, Lara, do you have any advice here? Anything you'd like to suggest to the Hugo Award Committee?
No, I applaud them for catching that, taking it seriously, and disqualifying all of those votes. But all I can think is, why do people have to do stuff like this? Just quit being. Don't lie. Don't lie.
Me, it would take all the fun out of winning.
No joke.
Anyway, I'm not trying to be all goody two shoes. I just know I'd rather not have the award
than to know you won it because a bunch of people cheated. No, thank you.
Okay, news story -- This has to do with a company called Beventi that wants to reinvent book signings. Book signings, yes. Return with me to yesteryear. Okay, that's an exaggeration. There are still some, but not nearly like there used to be when I was starting out writing in the 90s. And frankly, I thought I was done with book signings. I've spent enough afternoons, 2 hours, sitting at a table, drumming my fingers or giving people directions to the bathrooms. It's not my idea of a good time. And I don't think it's good for book sales or book promotion or anything. But perhaps that is why this company called Baventi wants to reinvent the form and turn it into something that, actually helps writers. They've got a platform. I think it can be on your computer, on your phone, an app that streamlines pre-orders and direct sales. What they do is get authors to post information about their signings in advance. I'll be there, I'll be signing this. What do you want? And so people can pre-order it and pick it up at the bookstore, or if they can't come, pick it up afterwards, I'm going to assume. So basically, at least in theory, I would think really improving the value of book signings for writers by using, mechanical devices. Lara, what do you think? Would you be willing to try Baventi? Baventi. It's probably got event inside it. Baventi. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No worries. They have my attention. I've been seeing quite a few articles talking about direct sales, and frankly, even big players like Ingram have been telling you how to get involved in direct sales, trying to cut out the middleman. And we both feel strongly about alleviating some dependence on certain big players.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
being able to take advantage of those direct sales in a way that makes sense for us and doesn't take months and months to learn yet another software or how to make something work, it sounds like it could be very helpful to me.
Well, what you said, it reminded me, this is sort of a distant memory because I barely do them anymore, but I could see sometimes at signings that there were people kind of looking around the store and they'd glance kind of furtively at me periodically, but only after I left would they come up and get one of the books that I autographed before I left, and I don't know what that is, but this app is perfect for them,
Yes.
Jesse.
They don't really want to interact with you. They just want the book.
Or people have ideas that writers are, I don't know, a lot weirder than we actually are. But Jesse, from the consumer point of view, do you see this idea sparking a revival in well-attended book signings?
I mean, maybe. I feel, again, at this point, do we need another service that we have to follow that we're both you
Yes.
and the person you want to follow has to engage with? Like, if you like an author, you're probably following them on whatever, if they're on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, you're probably already following them. So you probably already know when they're doing book signings or when they're going to be close to you or whatever. So I don't know if people will use this. I like that it exists. And maybe will help smaller authors as well, who don't have the time or the team to keep up with other social media things. So it's possible. I feel like there's something like this in either in books or in music or whatever, like a new app or service that's trying to find a better way to connect the two people together.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I read an article. One of the articles that I read was talking about trying to use Shopify in this manner, but even that article said it's difficult to learn and adapt to books. Like, it's not the easiest thing in the world. High learning curve, but it said if you can figure it out and get on there, you can actually make, potentially make some pretty good sales selling directly like that.
Mm-hmm.
So the one that's designed specifically for authors to sell books directly to readers and is already set up that way, might be easier. I'm going to look at it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well done, you guys. All right. Jesse, why don't we talk to Aprilynne Pike? Aprilynne, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, traditional first question. If you could offer writers one piece of advice, what would it be?
Well, this sounds really weird, but I actually give it to young writers all the time. And that's that you have to really love writing. You can't just be hoping for writing success. And it seems weird to say, but a lot of people, they see kind of the glitz and glamour of mostly the big writers, not most of the writers. And they're like, I want to do that. And I'm like, you know how you get there? By writing a lot of words. And if you actually don't love the writing part, it's going to be miserable. Even if you do get to fame and fortune or whatever, it's going to be a rough road.
That's really good advice.
Yeah, it is. Okay, let's talk about WriterCon. So you're coming, and you are, in fact, you are the Sunday keynote. It's like the premiere slot. And so if nothing else, you are the last person anybody will hear from, at least from a lectern. So have you thought about what you're going to say?
I have a lot, actually, and I'm not going to spoil too much here, but
Okay.
I've been through a really interesting writer's journey. It's kind of spun and gone all sorts of places, high highs, low lows, and it's going to be a lot about that. And so wherever you are on your journey, enjoy where it is, where it's going, and where it might never go, both good and bad.
That's also fantastic advice. All right, let's talk. So you're doing the keynote. You're also doing some solo sessions. You're appearing on panels, I think on roundtables. You will definitely be signing books. Oh, and you're teaching 2 3-hour MasterClasses on Monday. What, like a workhorse for WriterCon. This is great.
I'm so actually excited about those because it's fun to speak. It's fun to meet people. It's fun to share little tidbits. But what's really fun, in my opinion, is digging in and being like, here's some of the in the trenches, flinging the dirt everywhere, you know?
Well, that's the whole point of those masterclasses. You have more time. They're 3 hours, so you can kind of take a deep dive in the topic. And one of them, you're talking about openings, because I may be there because I'm not sure I've mastered it yet. And the other one is something about don't mistake plot for stuff happening or something like that.
I like that one.
That's a saying from my college fiction professor is don't mistake plot for stuff happens, because you can have all sorts of stuff happening. And if you haven't introduced any of the characters and no one's involved, this is why opening a movie with a big explosion is often successful, because movies are so visual. But opening a book with a big explosion with people you've never met often has them thinking like,
yeah.
I'm so glad you're doing a master class on that, because that's something that I sometimes have to very gently say to people, very, very new and aspiring writers, that just because something is happening, that doesn't mean you're progressing your plot. So
and on the other side,
yeah,
just because you're having a conversation and your characters are growing doesn't mean you shouldn't also be having stuff happen, you know? So it's a fine line. Enough stuff, not too much stuff.
That's good. Okay, Bill, you go to the openings and I'll go to stuff.
Okay, yeah. Then we can swap notes. Excellent.
So you're going to be working really hard. And this is not something that you have to do. It's something that you choose to do. So why do you choose to attend writers' conferences? What do you get out of it?
I think that there is... When you do college classes, there's so little time to learn how to write a novel, because you're almost always going to be focusing on short stories, because you can't write a novel and workshop it in one semester. It's not going to happen. In fact, I remember taking the development of the novel, and I thought we were going to be like
writing novels. And it was about looking at other people's novels and seeing how they were developed, which was useful.
Yeah. But I feel like there are so few classes. If you've got someone who lives, in Wisconsin, in the middle of nowhere, and they've got some online community college classes, and that's their only resource, where are they going to learn how to write a novel?
Exactly.
Not there. They probably can learn great things there. I'm a huge supporter of community colleges and online school and that sort of thing. But where are they going to learn how to write a novel? Where are they going to find out about tips and tricks from people who have written novels? Writers' conferences are one of the last real popular bastions for that, I think.
Absolutely. Do I understand correctly? You've also worked, or maybe still work, as a a marketing and content
I
specialist?
do. So I've been
tell us
doing
about
that for the
that. What do
last
you-
couple of years.
Yeah.
So I spent about 2 years at a startup event management company. It's really funny because actually they're a direct competitor with Hoova, which is what you use for your event. I was like, I know them. I've written about them. And then for the last 6 months, I've been working with a radiology practice in Minneapolis, and I do.
Okay.
It's a big nationwide practice, so I do marketing writing for them, and it's surprisingly fun. I tell people that, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's what you do now?" And I'm like, "No, it's fun.
Enjoy
I like
Hey,
it."
that's great. Yeah.
So you live in Florida now, right? That's what I read on your
do.
website. So it must be true. And I
Yep.
think that's like a continental flip-flop from where you started. So how are you liking Satellite Beach?
I love Satellite Beach. I tell people I live in the best square mile of Florida because I live on a barrier island, which is like some people, I didn't know what a barrier island was before I moved to one, but it's about a mile wide and really long. So it's these weird like islands that go down a peninsula. So I live a half a mile from the beach. I ride there on my bike, but I also live in a very like normal middle class town, and it feels very small and maybe a little bit retro even. We live just south of an Air Force base. And so a lot of just Air Force members in there and everything. And we run on science. My husband teaches at the Tech University across the river. We are just south of Cape Canaveral. I watch the shuttles go up all the time. It's just a really, really lovely place to live. And since it's hurricane season,
I was about to ask. Yeah.
Well, here's your science fact for the day.
That way. Yeah.
Other side.
Okay.
I'm on the east side, and the hurricane right now, Hurricane Debbie, I think it's called, is on the west side. Okay. But because the horn of Cape Canaveral comes out, it disrupts the swirling weather pattern. And the county where I live in hasn't had anything make landfall bigger than a category 2 since they came up with the categories.
Okay. So maybe a little rain for you.
Yes. Yeah, it's raining right now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Found the perfect place, sounds like to me.
Oh, I found the perfect place.
Nice. So what brought you to books? Why did you want to start writing?
Oh, gosh, that starts, almost since I could read. As soon as I could read, I was devouring books. All of the awards that I got in school were always for reading all the books in the library, reading all the Ramona Quimby books, reading all of these. And as soon as I realized that someone wrote these stories, which I think took me till I was about 7 before I realized that stories didn't just magically appear on a page. I was like, oh, and then I started telling stories, terrible, terrible stories. But that's what you tell when you're 7. That's what you tell sometimes when you're 17 and when you're 27 and when you're 37. But terrible stories, but all the time. In fact, I had a nickname. My family massively used to call me the Queen of La La Land because I was always off somewhere, thinking of stories, making up stories. And so interestingly, when I started college, I started as a pre-med major because that was the path I had been going on. Then I got into
funny. We are like sister spirits. I'm doing so many things where I'm just nodding because I'm like, yes. Now my nickname wasn't quite that nice, but yeah.
Ooh.
Queen of La La Land. No.
So I got into my first science class and realized that, studying was harder than I thought it was. And I didn't feel like doing it. And so I changed my major and got into creative writing. I didn't pick this school for its creative writing program, but just by chance it had one. And I just settled right in there. So I think that's when I first thought, well, this is what I'll get my degree in. Maybe it's something I'll do something with. But I didn't really start to think, well, I think maybe I can be an author until I met my first author. And actually, that's another reason why I like to do writers' conferences is that I think that something has to enter your sphere of reality. You have to realize that it truly is possible before you feel like you can do it. Weirdly enough, I was living with my mother-in-law at the time. We were getting ready for my husband to go to law school. And she was like, oh, you should come to our writing group. We have this woman her book's getting published in about 3 months. You should come meet her. Her name is Stephanie Meyer. And so
Oh.
that's how I met Stephanie Meyer. And I found out that she was a lot like me. She had little kids. She was like looking for other things to do because she liked to be busy because, I love to be busy. And I was like, well, if she can write a book, then I can write a book. And I think that was the moment that I really thought I could be an author. And everything took off from there.
That's so neat.
That is fantastic.
What does a typical writing day look like for you? Like, what's your process?
It has changed as my kids have gotten older. When I had little kids, like preschool was my salvation. I had 4 hours and I learned how to do what I call writing concentrate, like orange juice concentrate.
Oh, yeah.
So I would drop my, whichever kid it was that was youngest, off at preschool, come home. No email, no social media, no research even. Research I could do later. It was just writing for 4 hours, get my anywhere between probably 2,000 and 3,000 words in. And that was the chunk that I needed to write that day. And I wrote probably 10 books doing just those 4-hour chunks. And then you grab time when you can. Sure. But one thing about my writing process is that there's not a process. And that has been incredibly helpful for me. I don't need special music. I don't need headphones. I certainly don't need a special candle and a special cup of tea. Anytime people start getting into their process and get that far, I'm like, whoa, you got to pull back. So for me, it really is just, I think about the story all the time so that when I'm ready to sit down in front of the computer, I at least have an idea of where I'm headed. I surprise myself sometimes. And that's one of the joys of writing a book. Even when you're a planner, you surprise yourself sometimes. Oh, yeah,
definitely.
But I do a lot of marinating. And then I sit down and do writing concentrate.
Nice. All right. You mentioned planner. Do you consider yourself to be a planner or a pantser? How do you?
I can't start a book until I know what's going to happen at the end.
All right. Fair.
I don't like to explore. I know people that do, and that's great, but I'm like, I want to know where I'm going. And so what I do with my first draft is I get to know my characters because I think that you have to dig in and be with them to really get to know them. But I want to already know what they're going to do and what they're going to encounter. And I'm not really a control freak in very many areas of my life, but that's one of them. I'm like, firm hands on the rein of this plot.
And I have to think that the process you described where you needed to sit down and be able to write very quickly in that short amount of time or grab a few minutes here and there where you could, I have to feel like that really helped support that you had that plan in place so that when it was time to sit and write, you could.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Well, Aprilynne, what are you working on now or what's coming out next?
So the last book, well, it leads into what I'm working on now. The last book that I put out was called Heat, and it is probably the closest to my first novel, Wings, in terms of tone and the level of kind of urban fantasy. Anyway, it's about
the #1 New York Times-bestselling novel, Wings.
Yes, that's exactly what we're talking about.
Okay.
I thought maybe I'd go back to that because I had so much fun writing it.
Yeah.
But instead of fairies, we do rather sexy dragons in this one. And so that one is out. And what I'm working on is the sequel. And it's kind of fun because I'm at a place in my writing journey where I write books for people. And I don't mean for readers. I mean, my friend Callie is like, when is the second book coming out? You need to finish it. And I'm like, Callie, you are Heat's #1 fan. I am writing the sequel for you. It is going to get there. So that's what I'm working on now.
Fabulous.
It's probably half done.
Okay, one more quick question. I know for a fact that you're a singer. Will you join us at WriterCon for karaoke night?
Oh, let's see. What night is it?
Saturday night. Well,
I will be there Saturday night. You might have to twist my arm a little, but I do like karaoke.
Well, I twisted Lara's arm every year. So.
Every year.
Yeah? Okay.
That could happen. Even Jesse has taken the floor at karaoke night. So
very nice.
Why did I say even Jesse? That doesn't sound right, but because he's not here. I can't see his face right now. Anyway, Aprilynne, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Absolutely.
And can't wait to see you in a few weeks at WriterCon. WriterCon.
Right? It's coming up.
It's coming up. Laugh, cry. Like,
Yes, some of both. Some of both.
All right.
I have
so
slides
excited
to
meet
make.
you, though. Yeah.
All right. Bye-bye now.
See ya.
Just a few parting words. Of course, you know I'm going to mention WriterCon 2024, August 30 to September 2nd, Oklahoma City, Renaissance, Waterford. The website is ready to take your registration, and I hope you'll give it a visit. That's writercon.com. If you haven't joined the Facebook group for WriterCon, you can do that without going anywhere. Just sign on. Log on to Facebook and search for WriterCon. I think you'll find us. And you can also go to Substack and subscribe to the WriterCon e-newsletter, which is completely free and one more way to stay in touch and in tune with what's going on in the writing world. Okay? Until next time, keep writing. And remember, you cannot fail if you refuse to quit.